called me from the ashes, you have broken every curse. Blessed Redeemer, you have set this captive free. Lord, I can't help but sing. Faithful you are, faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are. All your promises are yes and amen. All your promises are yes and amen. I will rest in your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness. I will rest in your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness. I will rest in your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness. I will rest in your promises. My confidence is your faithfulness. Faithful you are, faithful forever you will be. Faithful you are. All your promises are yes and amen. All your promises are yes and amen. Who am I that the highest King would welcome me? I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free at last he has ransomed me, his grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. Oh, I am who you say I am. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining in on us. Mike has been doing a Wednesday night series on building trust, and I am filling in him for tonight and going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to be filling in from time to time, and when I fill it in, I'm going to be doing a series on the heart of Christ. So would you turn with me to Luke chapter 19. Luke 19, as we look at this story and look at the heart of Christ. Mike and I did a series a couple of summers ago about, I think we called it Dinner with Jesus, and it was just looking at some of the teachings because we were amazed at how many times Jesus taught either his disciples or other people who had invited him in for a meal. They were around the meal, and he would have some incredible teaching. And so we would look at those teachings that happened around a meal. Back in these times, in Bible times, in this culture, who you ate with meant something. That's why a lot of people like to have dignitaries. It said something about them if they could have important people who came to their house and ate with them. Now, it could say just the opposite. If there were some people of low character who were at your house, that said something about you as well. So who you ate with said something about you today. And we're going to see that Jesus, in this story today, a very familiar story, invited himself to someone's house. And there was some questions about why he did that. Let's look at Luke chapter 19. We're going to go verse by verse. It said, he entered Jericho and was passing through. Now, if we were doing a study of Luke, we would see that Jesus has been on a journey from north in Israel, and he's making his way down to Jerusalem. Several times in the previous chapters, it mentioned that he was on his way to Jerusalem. So if I can kind of draw you a mental picture here, let's think up here is the Sea of Galilee. And down here is the Dead Sea. This is in Israel. And then there's this river, the Jordan River, that runs from the Sea of Galilee to the Dead Sea. Well, if you were looking at a map, if you were staring here and I was the map, when you get down to the Dead Sea, Jericho would be right here. And people would travel from the north, they would travel down the Jordan River. And it says Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. So what he would do on the map, they would be coming down, and here would be Jericho, which would be on the west. And it was like they made a hard right to go to Jerusalem. And so it says he entered Jericho and he was passing through. We're going to see in a little bit that there was a big crowd with Jesus as he was passing through Jericho, as he entered, was going through there. There were a couple of reasons for that. It was about to be the Passover time. We'll see in the following chapters in Luke that Jesus actually went into Jerusalem. There was the Passover celebration. And so there were lots of people who were traveling from different parts of Israel up north down to Jerusalem, and they would take this path from down the Jordan River, go to Jericho, make a right, and then go to over to Jerusalem. So one, there was a lot of crowd. There was a crowd because of the Passover, but two, it was just the popularity of Jesus. It was hard for him to travel without drawing a crowd, people who would follow him or people who would come out to see him. So they're traveling down to Jericho, and he was intending to just pass through. Verse 2, and there was a man called by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and he was rich. Okay, now we've introduced Zacchaeus, and if you've grown up in Bible classes, you've heard that story numerous times. It's a popular encounter that Jesus had with Zacchaeus that we teach to children. But it says here, Zacchaeus was a chief tax collector and he was rich. Now, not just a tax collector, he was chief tax collector. And that means he was in charge, he was the boss of many other tax collectors. So he was not just a tax collector, he was a chief tax collector. And so many of us who have studied the Bible for years, we know that tax collectors were disliked by the Jews. They were considered traitors because money was taken from them and given to the Romans. So one, they were traitors. Two, there was always suspicious that they took more than they really needed and they pocketed a lot of it. So they were considered traitors. They were considered cheaters. So Zacchaeus was not only a tax collector, he was a chief tax collector, and he was rich, likely because of money he made off the other tax collectors. So verse 3 says, Zacchaeus was trying to see who Jesus was, and he was unable because of the crowd, for he was small in stature. So Zacchaeus had heard that Jesus was coming through. Word had come through that this man, Jesus, maybe he's a prophet, he's done miracles. This incredible man that was whose popularity, in some ways, people who did not like him for one reason or another, they either loved him or didn't like him. His name was well known, and Zacchaeus heard that he was coming through, and Zacchaeus wanted to see him, but he was unable to because of the crowd. We talked earlier about there were a lot of people traveling, and a lot of them were wanting to be close to Jesus. So Zacchaeus, as they walked along the road, was there to see Jesus, but it was too crowded, and because he was not a tall man, he was small in stature, he couldn't see over everybody. He couldn't see the face of Jesus, who he wanted to see. So, verse 4 said, So he ran on ahead, and he climbed up into a sycamore tree in order to see him, for he was about to pass through that way. Now, there's a couple of things that's really unusual that Zacchaeus did here. First of all, it says he ran on ahead. Now, Zacchaeus had been there hoping to see Jesus, unaware of how wide a group was coming through the town with Jesus. And he couldn't tell. He didn't know which one Jesus was. He couldn't tell because it was crowd. He couldn't see over the people. And so what he did is he knew where the path was, and so he ran on ahead to where they were going to be. If you think about it, if you miss something in a parade, you might want to say, well, I missed it, but I'll run down ahead of where the parade is going, and then I'll be able to see it. That's what Zacchaeus was doing. Now, the unusual thing here is that Zacchaeus was running because in this culture, a person who was wealthy, a man of dignity, did not run. The people who ran and scurried about were servants. They were running to do this for their master, and they would hurry to do that for their master. But people of wealth, they did not do that. They did not run. They might just mosey because they are someone of importance. They're a person of dignity, of high status. And so they would kind of mosey through a crowd or down the streets. You would never catch one running. But Zacchaeus wanted to see Jesus so bad that he ran so he could pass the group that was traveling through and get down to get another chance to see Jesus. And so not only did he run to get ahead, but he found a tree that he could climb up in. That's another thing that a person of wealth and dignity would have never done. If there was a reason to go up a tree, he would have got a child or a servant to do that for him. So he wanted to see Jesus bad enough that he did things that would not be kosher for someone like Zacchaeus, a man of his wealth, a man of his status. He would not have run. He would not have climbed a tree. But he did just to see what Jesus looked like. Why did he do that? Why was that so important for Zacchaeus to see Jesus? We're never really told, so all you can do is just kind of wonder and say, what would have driven a man like this to do some things out of the ordinary, something out of character for a man of his position, to be able to see someone like Jesus? Well, here's some thoughts. Maybe he had heard that Jesus was a rabbi who ate with tax collectors. It has been said of him before that he eats with sinners and tax collectors. So it may be that Zacchaeus heard this, that he was someone who ate with tax collectors. Maybe he heard that one of his disciples was a tax collector. Remember him? Matthew? So maybe he had heard that. Maybe being the chief of tax collectors, maybe he even had a conversation with Matthew. Maybe there was, some people under him who had a conversation with Matthew. So maybe he knew that one of his disciples was a tax collector. Maybe both of those, that he knew he was a friend of a tax collector, but that he was a righteous man, that he was considered a good man, that he was considered a prophet, a holy man. And Zacchaeus knew that those who would eat with tax collectors or hang out with tax collectors were probably not people of great character. They would either be wanting something, or they were wealthy and had a lack of character, as most tax collectors did. We're not sure, but we know that he gets set up ahead. He's gone ahead and he's gone up so that he can see Jesus. And then we see that he finally sees Jesus, but it turns, because not only does he see Jesus, but Jesus sees him. Verse 5, when Jesus came to that place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for today I must stay at your house. So Jesus sees him. He calls him by name and he says, I must stay at your house. So if Zacchaeus had heard that about Jesus, he found out that it was not just a rumor, but that it was true. And so Zacchaeus responded. Verse 6, he hurried and he came down and he received him gladly. So Zacchaeus was excited about this Jesus, that he was a man of great character. He seemed to be a righteous man, and yet he was willing to come to his house. Remember what I told you, who you ate with said something about you. I'm not sure what it was about Zacchaeus that was really attracted to Jesus and excited about it, but he wanted him there. And likely when he went to his house, they had a meal. That would be, if you had a guest, that was usually what you did. If someone came in your house, you did two things. You would, one, give them either something to wash their feet. You would have a bowl of water and a towel there for them to wash their own feet, or you would have your servants there to wash their feet before they entered. And then as they entered, you would serve a meal, and there would be conversation going on, and they would enjoy one another's company. Now, What we're going to do in the next verses, we're going to see three different reactions by people. We're going to see, we're going to look at a reaction by the people who were watching all this. Then we're going to see a reaction by Zacchaeus. And then thirdly, we're going to see the reaction of Jesus. Now, this story, as I said, we often think of it as being a children's story, something that we teach to children. But this is a good story to know. This encounter that Jesus had with Zacchaeus is important to us. One, it demonstrates God's love for all people. Zacchaeus was, he was not considered part of the Jews in the sense that he was a traitor and he was a cheater. He was despised. He was looked down upon by the Jews. And we see God's love for all people. You know I do, and I'm sure most of you do. Sometimes we have a day or days that we're not at our best for some reason. We do things we're ashamed of. We do things we're disappointed in ourselves, and sometimes we get to that point, and a person can get up and go, "I just really don't like myself. I don't know how God could like me because I don't even like myself." Sometimes I think we feel like we may be far away from God's love and God's grace because of our behaviors. But we see in this story God's love for all people. The second thing is that we see in the second half of this encounter here is that when Jesus moves into the life of a person, behavior changes happen. There are things that happen. We see people who are far away from God and had no faith, and Jesus comes into their life, and we see major changes. We see people who've had faith attend church, but they had maybe a little bit of faith, a weak faith, a mediocre faith, and somehow Jesus becomes more real to them. They let Jesus into their other areas of their life. They begin to think about Jesus more, talk to Jesus more, and we see behavior changes. You can sometimes see something happening with people and want to ask, "What's happened with you?" And the answer is there's been a deeper encounter with Jesus. And then the third thing of why this story is good to know is we're going to see and talk about in the end two dangers in regards to relationships with people who are far from God. All right? That's all I'm going to say about that third part. We'll talk later about it. So let's look at the first reaction. This is the reaction of the people. Verse 7. When they saw it, they all began to grumble, saying, He has gone to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. All right. I don't know how to really say that in a way, how they may have said it. It said they grumbled. They were not happy about it. He has gone to be the guest of a man who is a sinner. Can you believe this? What is he thinking? Those are what I sense behind this statement here. They grumbled about it. Now, sometimes, especially when we get very familiar with the words and the heart of Jesus, we see this and go, man, how cold are these people? But before we get too judgmental, if you and I were part of that group, we likely would have been thinking the same thing. You see, during the intertestamental period, from between Malachi, the late BCs and the early AD, there was this time where Greek conquered all the land of Israel, all this land in here. There was Greek control, and then there was Roman control. and they brought in their authority, and they brought in their culture in their lifestyle. And the Jews who were living in the land of Israel did not like their godless lifestyle. They didn't like their entertainment. They didn't like how they did things. They didn't like that lifestyle because it was godless. And so the Jews who served a God and were aware of the Ten Commandments and had this idea that God expected a certain behavior of his people, they saw all this moving in and couldn't do anything about it. So what they did, there were several groups who became separatists. In other words, they said, we're not going to be around these people and the things they do because they are a godless people. They are not godlike in the things that they do, and so we're going to separate ourselves. We don't want any part of what they're doing. We don't want them to be part of our culture. And so they decided, and one of these groups was the Pharisees. It actually started out saying, we are going to be a holy people. We're not going to be like these cultures that are coming in and trying to infiltrate our culture. And so it started out with a good heart of saying, I don't want to be like those people. We're not going to be like them. And we're certainly not going to sit down and have them over for a meal. Now, what happened is these people became puffed up. They began to look at them and go, aren't we righteous people compared to them? Isn't God pleased with us that we're not like them? And they became puffed up and then couldn't even see their own failure to live up to God's standards. They would compare themselves to godless people and say we're good, but they became so puffed up in that they could not see their own failure, their own morality, the moral decline. And so they began to think highly of themselves because of different things that they would do, rules that they would follow. So they became in a rut. They became hard-hearted, but we would understand how this would be. It's like, why would you be around tax collectors and sinners? Why would you be around those people who do not honor God? So they were confused. So we see with the people, there was some confusion. All right, verse 8, we're going to see what was Zacchaeus' reaction to this. Verse 8, Zacchaeus stopped and he said to the Lord, Behold, Lord, half of my possessions I will give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will give back 4 times as much. Now, maybe they were eating a meal at this time. It says Zacchaeus stopped. Maybe he stopped eating. Maybe he stood up. Maybe he just sat up straight, and he made this announcement. And he spoke of, there's going to be some changes in my life. I'm going to do things differently. I'm not going to be the same person. All of this because of his encounter with Jesus. And what he said is, I'm going to be generous to others. I'm going to give half of everything I own to the poor. Everything, half of what I have, I'm going to give to the poor. So he became generous, and then he wanted to make restitution. He wanted to make things right. Along the lines, we know Zacchaeus from his statement that he cheated people. They were people who did not like him and couldn't stand him because of taking their money, more money than he should have, hurting their life because of the way he did it. And he said, I'm going to make restitution. If I've defrauded anyone of anything, I will give back 4 times as much. Zacchaeus is saying, because of my encounter with this man who has shown me great love, but who is a righteous man, who believes in certain principles, who believes in goodness, who everything I see about him is righteous, this good person, but he has shown me such love. He has changed the way I am thinking, and I no longer want to be this person of fraud, someone who cheats, who just tries to accumulate things for my own comfort and for my own status. And he said, I'm giving it away. I'm giving away half of what I own, and whoever I defrauded, I'm going to pay back 4 times as much. Think about people you've seen in your life who got connected to God, who became connected with Jesus Christ. When God moves in, we can expect to see a heart of generosity. People begin to either give by the way they serve, or if they have money, they begin to give away their money for good causes to the church. When God moves in, expect a heart of generosity, but also expect restitution. People who want to make things right. I've seen adult children who come to Christ or are reconnected with Christ, and one of the things they have to do is they have to go to their parents and say, I'm so sorry for the grief I caused you. I was just selfish, and I wanted everything, and you were in my way, and I took things out on you. I wasn't happy, and I was wrong, and I'm sorry for that. So we see adult children who want to make things right. I've also seen the opposite of that, where people who grew up not really having any kind of a belief in God or a relationship with Christ, and they became Christians, they gave their life to Christ, and they apologized to their children for not teaching them about Jesus, for displaying some values before them that they no longer hold. And so they go to them and said, I've not been a good parent. I didn't know Jesus, and I feel bad about the things that I may have communicated to you that were important, things that were in value that are not. Because now with my relationship with Jesus, I see a whole new path. I see a whole new picture. So we see that. I think about a story of a man that I knew at a previous church many years ago, and he would have lunch with a person in our church who was a Christian but lacked a lot of social skills. He just grew up in a home, and he married somebody who was very much like him, and their children were unruly and they were dirty, and this guy really had a heart for Jesus, but he was just so socially awkward. And this guy, who was a businessman in the community and had done well, would take him out to eat. It was like the first Tuesday of every month they would go eat, and he would buy his lunch, and he would ask how he's doing. And sometimes he'd have to say, okay, you know, it's really bad manners to belch at the table when everybody's eating, and have to explain that to him. Sometimes he and his wife would say, let us help you with their kids. Let us talk to that. But mostly what he did was just show him love and listen to him and say how things were going. And it really surprised me. So I just said, how did you guys strike up a friendship? And he said, we were in high school together, and I was one of a group of many guys who made fun of this boy, who said things that made other people laugh but embarrassed this boy. And that was so wrong. I take him out to eat. Sometimes he does things that's a little embarrassing, but I owe him this. I have to make this right. And so that's what he did. And that's what happens when God moves into the life. We see restitution that's wanted to be made. This should be normal for all of us who are pursuing a Christ life, that we become more generous, that we want to make things right. All right, let's look at verse 9 then. And Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost." Jesus announces that Zacchaeus, because of a faith, a connection he had made with Jesus, that he is like the son of Abraham, and he will receive the promise that has been given to the sons of Abraham. Now remember, there was another time when Jesus said, not all those who are sons of Abraham will be heirs to the promise of Abraham. And so what he's saying is, here's a guy who understands the love of God and is making a change. Jesus is seeing in Zacchaeus some real life heart change there. Jesus said he's come to seek and save that which is lost. Another word for save would be restore. He's on a search and restore mission. He said that is his heart, that he wanted to find those people and to restore them. So I mentioned earlier that one of the things as we look at this that I think we have to consider is, what is your relationship like with those who are far from God? So I think there's two dangers. This is not original with me. This is things I have heard and have never forgotten. There's two dangers in our relationship with people who are far from God. One is to be a growing Christian who's pursuing a Christ life, and the only friends and the only connections that you have with people are other Christians, that you don't have any other contact with people who are far from God. That's one of the danger about being a Christian, is that we come together on Sunday morning. We encourage one another as we worship together, as we study God's Word together, and we come on Sunday morning. We might do Sunday night, Wednesday night. We might be part of a small group, and we're just with Christians, and they become our best friends because we have the same values. We hold things that are the same things important. And we want to raise our children the same way. And so we naturally grow to those people because we have so many things alike as we pursue a life that looks like Jesus. But it's a danger because there are lost people out there who need to be in contact with those who are pursuing the Christ life. Jesus said his heart was to find lost people and to restore them. So I'm going to say one of the danger is having only friends who are Christians. Now, when I'm saying that, I'm implying that we should have some friendships. We should strive to have friendships with those who are far from God. Now, I'm not saying date them, marry them, trust them with your children, trust them with your money, go into business with them. I'm not talking about doing that. I'm talking about just loving them. So that's one danger, is growing Christians whose only friends are Christians. But here's danger two, and that is being a blender Christian. That you're part of a church, you're working on pursuing, you worship, you read the Bible, you're part of Bible studies, but you have friendships with many people who are far away from Christ, but you blend in with them very well. In other words, there's really no distinction when you're around them between they and between you. And the thing is, there is something distinct about the Christ life. There is something about the way you handle yourself and how you do your job. There's something that's important and distinct about your vocabulary, how you say things. There's something very important and distinct in Christianity about your sexual habits, what you do with your money, how you treat people. There's some things that are distinct with people. But if you swim in the world, if you blend in, you lose your distinction. One of the things I think that drew Zacchaeus to Jesus was that he hung out with tax collectors, but that he was a righteous man. And there was something about that was appealing to Zacchaeus. And so the challenge for us is, how do we stay committed to pursuing the Christ life, but be at home with people who are not? How do we do that? I think some of the things we can do is to grow in looking at someone's behavior that might be repulsive to you, but that we look at the person and we're not repulsed by him. We may be repulsed by the behavior, but we look at the individual and we love them, but we don't change our pursuit of the Christ life when we're around them. They may not have great character, they may not be trustworthy, but we still love them. What would it look like to be able to love somebody who had a behavior that was repulsive to you? You don't love their behavior, you don't love their activity, but you can love them. Jesus ate with tax collectors and sinners, but he never became one. If you show someone, if you show them love, if you show them respect, but you stay committed to the pursuit of the Christ life, something powerful could happen. Now, this is not a guaranteed formula, because there are some people who are rebellious and they're going to always be rebellious. But one of the things Jesus did was he loved people, but he never wavered from who he was and what he believed. I don't know all the tricks and how we do that, but I do know in our pursuit of Christ's behavior, that is the challenge for us, to stay committed to pursuing the Christ life, but to be able to love people who are not.
The ground began to shake, the stone was rolled away. His perfect love could not be overcome. Now death, where is your sting? Our resurrected King has rendered you defeated. Forever he is glorified. Forever he is lifted high. Forever he is risen. He is alive. He is alive. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome. Forever he is glorified. Forever he is lifted high. Forever he is risen. He is alive. He is alive.